caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the crossfire.
We're undergoing a kind of religious revival here in Washington, not the old-fashioned tented kind of revival with altar calls and spiritual redemption. This is the modern version where climate policy takes the place of the Eucharist, and a member of Congress from San Francisco wears the Pope hat. Yet it's no less fervent. Watch our city's head theologian, Nancy Pelosi, issue her final decree on the ethics of border walls. It is swift and final.
A wall is an immorality. It's not who we are as a nation. The wall is an immorality between countries. The wall, in my view, is an immorality.
Immoral. That's the final word from the High Church of Progressive Liberalism. Do they know about this in the Holy Land, though? Apparently they don't, because just yesterday, Israel, America's closest ally in that region, started construction on a massive new wall, a border wall. It's 20 feet high. It'll be made of galvanized steel. It's going to be built directly on top of an existing underground wall. Officials in Israel say the new wall will connect to another wall that extends right into the Mediterranean. That means the wall will prevent migration from the sea as well. Once all of this is done, the Gaza Strip will be entirely surrounded by walls. Israel expects to finish this by the end of the year. Israel already has a similar barrier on its border with Egypt. That wall cut the number of illegal African migrants from almost 15,000 in 2010 to a total of just 14 6 years later. That's some wall. Has anyone told Archbishop Pelosi about any of this? Will she denounce Israel as immoral? Someone ought to ask her that question and keep asking her until she answers it.
A southern grocery store chain facing backlash for including this message at the top of its weekly ad. It says, notice about that bar right there, heaven has a wall, a gate, and a strict immigration policy. Hell has open borders. Let that sink in.
And while religious messages are nothing new to the store's weekly flyers, dozens of people are saying this is just too political.
The owner of Max Cash Saver grocery store is standing by the message. Reggie McDaniel joins us now. Good morning, Mr. McDaniel. Why was it important for you to put that message out?
Good morning.
Why'd you put that message out, Reggie?
Yes, sir. That what the message I was making, I knew that the border deal was hot, but I've been looking at this message on Facebook for 6 months. And I saw it on there, and I just posted it up there. I wanted people to realize that heaven has walls and borders, and we have to get in that gate. And the only way we get in that gate is through Jesus Christ himself. And maybe I should have included in that John 3:16, so they'd realize how you get in that gate most people are not familiar with Revelations in chapter 22, where it talks about walls and borders. Right. And the open borders represents any lost person that wants to be, that don't want to. They can do all the sin and do it as much as they want to. But God has a place for us to go, and He has a salvation for us. And that's what I was trying to do. I had no idea it would be this big, but the bigger it got, the more the message is going to get out there. I'm proud we've done it, and I'm really proud of it. And I stand by my message that Jesus Christ is our Savior, and we need Him to get in that gate. Everybody's not going to heaven, and it seems like it makes people mad when you tell them that, but they got to have Jesus to get in, the blood of Him.
What's the response been?
Sir?
What's the reaction when you put the ad out? Are people giving you a thumbs up, thumbs down?
The first few reactions was really negative. Then we went on a news station, and I gave them a statement for about 15 minutes. I talked to them, and they played that, and it's been probably 90% positive. Now, we'll have one of those people latch on to us from somewhere that, from out of the country or somewhere way away, that if they talk so filthy and so pitiful, I don't even know why Facebook lets it stay up there. And that's what amazes me, is what the filthy talk of the people that latches on to us and the people that does that. All we try and do is give a simple message that Jesus loves you, and it did get out there. It accomplished what we wanted to, and I'm proud of that because I stand for Jesus. Yes, sir.
One person said this is disgusting, and they're vowing no longer to shop in your grocery stores. What do you say to those folks?
I don't have anybody that's personally told me they wouldn't shop with me. I've saw a few things online. I don't read all that negative stuff. I really focus on the positive and focus on taking care of our customers. I have churches all over this community has texted me and called me this morning at 5 o'clock on, praying for us to do this and praying to stand firm in what we do. And every one of my customers I faced has told me the same thing. Stand firm, we stand with you. And that's all I need. As long as I'm in God's will, I'm happy. The grocery business will be fine. It's always been. We've been doing this since the 50s. Right. It's the way I make a living. God will feed me like this as long as He wants to. And the grocery business will be fine. My customers will stand by me, and I believe that. They know who I am, and they know what I stand for.
A dramatic scene is unfolding at the last village under ISIS control in Syria, where our Charlie D'Agata has been reporting from the front lines. Women and children are pouring out in huge numbers as U.S.-backed Syrian forces make the final push against the militants. Charlie met the families who escaped to safety.
U.S.-led forces here say they are advancing today against the last remnants of ISIS militants, backed up by American airstrikes and artillery. And by the hour, those ISIS fighters are losing one of their last lines of defense, human shields. They've been pouring out of the last ISIS-held village in numbers no one here had expected. The women and children, so very many children, sons and daughters of ISIS members who are long gone, still fighting or already dead. Hala Muhammad's husband was killed in an airstrike, leaving her to care for 5 children on her own. What does it mean to you to see the end of ISIS?
What is she? They mean nothing to me. They're trash.
They may have stayed with ISIS until the very end, but the families here say it wasn't out of choice. They were forced to become human shields. But the more families that come flooding out of that village, the easier it is for U.S.-led ground troops to move in. There are estimated to be around 500 to 600 ISIS fighters left, and top SDF official Reader Hillel says there is no escape. At some point, when it becomes unwinnable for ISIS, are you expecting that they may surrender, or are you predicting a fight to the death?
We know that most of the fighters inside are the toughest left, and they may be looking for an escape route, but the only option is to surrender or die.
Families here told us there aren't many civilians left. The latest to flee from ISIS may be among the last. Now, the roughly 2,000 American forces who are here have been a vital part of this fight. Now, the Kurdish-led soldiers won't allow us to film them, but we've seen them everywhere, from frontline fighting to screening ISIS suspects who are trying to sneak out with those civilians.
In the wild and rugged areas of eastern Afghanistan, life is difficult at the best of times. Now it has become the main battleground against ISIL, a fight that ISIL is not losing. These militia know the capability of the men they're fighting. Commander Zaytoun knows better than most. He was an ISIL fighter. This is video of him when he was with the armed group. He joined for idealistic reasons, he says. He left when he witnessed the brutality.
ISIL was very cruel to everyone. They killed people, slaughtered them, they used bombs, they did whatever they could. I had to leave.
He has survived 3 assassination attempts, the last a few days ago when a magnet bomb was attached to his car in a crowded marketplace, killing one of his men and badly injuring him. People here are scarred and scared by ISIL. The group launches regular attacks from mountain hideouts, and bloodshed is a constant fear. 2 of Mohib Gul's 9 sons were killed by ISIL. One was hacked to death with an axe.
I don't have power to take my revenge. Otherwise, I would have hammered him all over his body from head to toe. I would keep him for a week and then let him die slowly, because that is what he deserves.
With the Afghan army overstretched in the fight against the Taliban, militias are the first line of defense in Nangarhar province.
They are tough and not far from here. If we leave this area, they will come back to destroy this place again. But we will fight again until we die.
These militias have only basic arms and equipment they say is insufficient to really fight ISIL. They need more, and US air power alone is not enough to destroy ISIL bases or prevent their operations. That needs to happen on the ground. The network of tunnels and ISIL hideouts in the Tora Bora mountains are easy to defend and almost impossible to attack from the ground. Commander Zaytoun points out the spot where the Americans dropped their biggest non-nuclear bomb containing 10,000 kilos of explosives to try and destroy ISIL positions. The militias say it made no difference.
If the US paid the amount they spent on this mother of all bombs, we could have finished ISIL.
Local commanders say that ISIL here has men from Chechnya, Turkey and Pakistan in its ranks. But communities fear that if ISIL is pushed out of Syria, it will rebase to Afghanistan.
The foreign fighters are very cruel and don't have sympathy for anyone. The local ISIL have at least some feeling for Afghans, but foreign ISIL are cruel. Their hearts are made of stone.
On the battlefield, ISIL may be contained for now, but it's taking ground in the propaganda war. Last week, Afghan security services arrested a cleric and a professor who are alleged to be ISIL spies. Western diplomats report that Afghan universities have become fertile ground for ISIL recruitment. Nangarhar University in Jalalabad was closed for a time last year, so recruiters and sympathizers could be cleared out.
There's no place here for people who want to use the university for political reasons against the government. No one can bring their ideas to work against the interests of the country.
In the remote militia outposts facing ISIL positions, the hope is they get Western support and weapons before they have to encounter the battle-hardened men who will lose Syria, but not a cause.
God controls the weather for 3 reasons: for punishment, for his land, or for mercy. The extreme weather we have been witnessing is clearly punishment.
More than 15 million Americans are under winter weather alerts this morning as the tail end of a massive system sweeps through the Northeast. The storm started in the Pacific Northwest 4 days ago and brought snow, sleet, and freezing rain from coast to coast. Now, it caused accidents, airport delays, power outages, and at least 2 deaths. David Begnaud is in Lake George, New York. That is right in the storm's path. David, good morning.
Nora, good morning. Welcome to Lake George. We are about halfway between Manhattan and Montreal, Canada. There's nothing unusual about snow this time of the year. It's the middle of winter. What is unusual, though, is that a lot of the major U.S. cities have seen far less snow this season than what they usually do at this time in the winter. But that doesn't mean it's been any less miserable.
This winter whiteout stretched from Wisconsin to Massachusetts. Snow, sleet, and freezing rain left behind a dangerous, icy mess. Trying to drive in these conditions felt like mission impossible for drivers in Massachusetts.
There's just been accidents everywhere.
In Indiana, freezing rain covered everything in a heavy ice. bringing down trees onto power lines. Ice-coated cars and roads in Chicago, where pedestrians had to watch out for sheets of ice falling from skyscrapers. The heavy rain even triggered landslides that shut down part of a Cincinnati highway. When we arrived in Saratoga Springs, New York, the wet snow and slick streets had kept some people off the road altogether.
I do drive, but I am avoiding driving today.
In Minnesota alone, over a 10-hour span, state police responded to 179 crashes and more than 300 spinouts. The storm dumped nearly a foot of snow in parts of the Midwest, and an additional foot is expected in Wisconsin and Michigan today, burying folks already trying to dig out. This neighborhood in St. Paul, Minnesota, was left unplowed, and that frustrated people like Crystal Beater, who needed help getting her car out of the road.
It's been a struggle all winter when it gets like this.
We hear you, Crystal. You know, last year it was really snowy in the east. Now it's been a reverse. A lot of snow out west in Seattle, not as much on the east coast. But, John, this morning the award for the most snowfall goes to Caribou, Maine. They've had 115 inches. That's about 10 feet of snow. And they're expected to get another foot today.
At least 7 people die as temperatures as low as 42 F wreak havoc across the Midwest, with more than 2,500 flights canceled, postal services halted, and even a Michigan town named Hell has frozen over. The deadly Arctic deep freeze wreaking havoc across the United States has left at least 7 people dead, with record-breaking low temperatures halting postal services in the Midwest and canceling more than 2,500 flights. Temperatures plunged to as low as -42 F in Park Rapids, Minnesota, -31 F in Fargo, North Dakota, and -27 F in Minneapolis. In Chicago, temperatures were still dropping after plunging early Wednesday to -19 F, breaking the day's previous record low set in 1966. Temperatures are expected to drop as low as -28 degrees in Chicago as the day progresses. Wind chills in northern Illinois made it feel as cold as -57 F. The extreme weather conditions triggered widespread closures of hundreds of schools and businesses from North Dakota to Pennsylvania. Amtrak also axed all trains into and out of Chicago on Wednesday and most services to or from Chicago on Thursday. Crews had to set rail tracks in fire to keep trains moving smoothly on Tuesday. More than 2,500 flights were canceled early Wednesday, largely out of Chicago O'Hare and Chicago Midway International airports, according to flight tracking site FlightAware. The U.S. Postal Service also took the rare step of suspending mail delivery to parts of Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, the Dakotas, and Nebraska on Wednesday because of the dangerous Arctic blast. Sub-zero temperatures already blanketing parts of Canada began sweeping across the Midwest and towards the East Coast on Tuesday evening. The frigid winds were bound for the East Coast later on Wednesday into Thursday. The National Weather Service forecast for Wednesday night predicted temperatures in Chicago as low as -28, with wind chills to -50. Detroit's outlook was for Wednesday overnight lows around -15, with wind chills dropping to -40.
About just got caught in a giant wreck. Cars are into other pickups. There's people hurt. I gotta let you go.
We're trying to undo our car so we can go home. I mean, we all know what we signed up for. We know we have to shovel our cars out from the street parking. Thanks. Like all that in front of me, that's enough room for like 4 cars, but unless I shovel it out, it's gonna be like that for a couple days.
No shortage of ice today, unfortunately. Oh yeah.
Are shut down this morning. Same for some other places like Chicago. A lot of kids getting a snow day today.
Well, speaking of Chicago, Cecilia, the Chicago River freezing over. That's where wind chills could drop 50 degrees below zero. That city is set to have one of its coldest days in history. Alex Perez is there starting us off. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Ryan. That's right. We are getting ready for that bitter cold. Now, you can see it's already snowing here right now, which means the morning commute is going to be a complete headache. And take a look behind me here. Underneath all of that snow and ice is actually Lake Michigan. The deep freeze is headed our way. Overnight, dangerous weather across the country as life-threatening cold gets ready to move in. Parts of the Midwest bracing for some of the coldest temperatures in years. In North Dakota, strong gusts combined with heavy snow creating treacherous and worsening road conditions. And freezing rain and slippery road conditions causing this car to spin out of control and into an embankment. Snow blowing across Minnesota's Highway 75 North, creating blizzard-like conditions. In the east, multi-car accidents shutting down Pennsylvania's I-90, like these cars going off the road. And this car crashing under this tractor trailer. Whiteout conditions not helping emergency crews and plows clear the roads. In Vermont, a combination of snow and heavy rain breaking up ice jams, rapidly flowing into a local waterfall, creating flooding concerns. As Cecilia said, a number of school districts already closed ahead of all this. The entire region taking a deep breath, bracing for what's to come. Temperatures that could feel like 50 to 60 below zero. Robin?
Looks brutal. All right, Alex, get inside. Thank you. We're going to turn now to Sam Champion. He's in for Ginger, who's on assignment, and Sam was good enough to leave us home in Miami to track the deep freeze for us. Good morning, Sam.
Always happy to be here in Times Square, Robin. Hey, let's talk a little bit about this because we got to get you ready for this. This is not only the coldest temperatures, coldest air we've seen break through the country this year, but in some cases since the 90s. Let's get to the boards. I remember the 90s. I was gainfully employed in the 90s, but some of you are much younger than me. So take a look at those numbers. Remember, Chicagoland, you're coming up with those real temperatures that are 11 below. Is it the coldest day ever in Chicago where the coldest temperature is 27 below? We'll find out then, but we're going to be very close because, as Alex said, those wind chills are 50 and 60 below. For the rest of the country, the watches and warnings are everywhere. More than half the country's involved. And to our friends in the south, I really need to tell you to pay attention. Hattiesburg, Mississippi has a winter storm advisory out right now. We're looking at 1 to 2 inches of snow in the deep south, and we all know, Atlanta, I love you. I used to live there, but we all know how badly we handle this kind of cold weather on the roads. So get ready for that. And even in New York and New England, where the snowfall totals will be pretty big, inland areas, this is a brutal cold to get ready for. So, George, we just got to get the signal out to everybody now.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Sam, wait a minute. Your mom was going to call you. You should have a hat on, Sam.
You're right.
I mean, you're a smart man.
You're right, Robin. And by Tuesday...
Millions of Canadians are huddled indoors on this Sunday because of a nasty winter storm. The powerful system is drifting across central and eastern Canada. It brings with it piles of snow, biting winds, and bone-chilling cold. Temperatures are so low that just a few minutes of exposure could mean frostbite. Meanwhile, snowblowers are getting a full workout today, clearing sidewalks and driveways. Parts of New Brunswick could get as much as 50 centimeters of snow. That snow could turn into freezing rain or rain in southern parts of the province. Environment Canada has issued a winter storm warning for all of New Brunswick. New Brunswick is a mess today. That powerful storm system is hitting that province with a mix of snow and ice pellets. And the Weather Network, Chris St. Clair, well, he is in Fredericton right now, joins us. Chris, good to have you. I can see the snow blowing around you. Talk to us about current conditions that you're facing right now.
Yeah, it is, well, bitterly cold. The temperatures have been in the minus teens, and they won't get above freezing in Fredericton. And this really compounds the problem here because the snow is coming down at a rate of about 4 or 5 centimeters an hour and will till mid-late afternoon. So that will equate to 20 or 30 centimeters of snow on the ground. The winds are pretty strong. That's blowing it around. This snow is light snow, so it drifts really easily. So that's reducing visibility on the roads in many parts of New Brunswick. Here's where this gets really tricky, and this is going to be the greater problem as we move through the latter part of the afternoon and into the evening. And this will really involve Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton. So that part of New Brunswick is, you'll get the snow, 20 centimeters, good number to think about, but you're likely to get anywhere from 8 to 12 hours of freezing rain on top of that. Along the Fundy Shore and into Moncton, it'll actually go over to rain at times, but we'll lay enough of a layer of ice in place that flooding could become an issue. Plus, combine that with the strong winds, the potential is there for some isolated power outages. Listen, the RCMP have said it many times already. Don't drive if you don't have to this afternoon. This is the worst of it, the next 18 hours in New Brunswick.
Well, the beach in Goderich, Ontario looks anything but summery this morning. The boardwalk is empty, and in place of ice cream cones are solid pieces of ice. The temperature here expected to hover around the -15 mark for most of the day, and tonight's wind chill is expected to nosedive to -40. A very similar picture across much of Canada today, from the prairies all the way to Quebec City, and for most places, relief is still some 2 days away, or even more. And once again, this is Halifax. Hard to tell with the blowing camera and all that gray, but this is Halifax, and in that city and across Nova Scotia, wind is a big issue today. Environment Canada warning of winds that could reach 100 kilometers an hour. And in Montreal, it is a city in cleanup mode after a blast of snow yesterday and today. For the first time in 10 years, the plunging temperatures in Montreal have forced the city to cancel its annual Fête de Neige celebration. Well, the CBC's Ainsley McClellan is out in the cold, joins us right now in Montreal. So walk us through what it's like right now, Ainsley.
Well, I would say, Michael, it's not a day to be outside, and yet here we are. But it is one of those days where the city is having trouble. It's trying to keep up with the pace of this snow. It's really picked up within the past couple of hours or so, and so we're seeing on main arteries like René Lévesque behind me here that the plows are having to pass every few minutes just to keep up, and that's mostly because the snow is blowing around. We have winds 40 kilometers an hour, gusting up to 70 kilometers an hour, and that's causing those snow drifts that you get at the corners, especially. Visibility very poor out there, and so officials encouraging people to stay off the roads in Montreal, but then throughout all of the other regions of Quebec as well. We have Montreal expecting to get 25 centimeters of snow, Eastern Townships 30 centimeters of snow, the Gaspé upwards of 50 or more, and we had a major section of highway of the Trans-Canada Highway 20 just east of Quebec City between Lévis and Montmagny that has been closed in both directions this morning. So difficult conditions out on the roads today. Fortunately, according to
Jesus, speaking to his disciples about the signs of his coming and the end of the age, declares this in Matthew 24:12. The Bible tells us lawlessness is the violation of God's commandments. Sin will be so rampant and so commonplace in the last days that the love people once had for one another, for many, will be non-existent. In this prophecy, Jesus Christ is describing an ongoing breakdown in the relationship with God. And since people's love for God is waning, it will be evident in the way people treat one another as well. A symptom may be that the love toward other people is decreasing, but the real cause is that the relationship with God is cooling off. This is what we are witnessing in our world today.
I love you. I miss you I miss you so much.
Heartbreak from the father of a missing Kentucky mom breaking his silence in an exclusive interview with Fox News. 23-year-old Savannah Spurlock has been missing for over a month now, but her father says he's been keeping the news from her 4-year-old son. Matt Finn's live from Lexington, Kentucky with the latest. Matt?
Sandra, Cecil Spurlock tells us he's been taking care of Savannah's 4-year-old son, and that boy is actually giving him strength because he does not want to break down in front of that toddler. Savannah's dad exclusively tells Fox News that his daughter Savannah was going through a difficult phase in life, that she was making bad decisions around the time that she disappeared, but he was showing her tough love and tells us he felt like she was going to snap back to the responsible mother that so many people tell us she is. Cecil Spurlock says he and his daughter Savannah loved to vacation together. One of his proudest moments was when she excelled in classes and lifeguarding during her first year of college. Now, Savannah's dad says he's drawing strength from God and pleading for anyone with information to end his nightmare.
She was kind, loving, and awesome person. I know she made some bad decisions. I know that. But she doesn't deserve what happened to her. I'm going to say it again. 3 men take a girl out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody knows something.
Savannah went missing on January 4th after she left a bar with 3 men that none of her friends and family know. Savannah's father has been taking care of her 4-year-old son, Noah. He says tomorrow Noah will go to therapy where he will be told for the first time about his missing mom.
It's therapy. He's going to therapy. Noah will be going to therapy to find out about his mom. He's awesome. He's awesome. I got him. I'll take care of him the rest of his life. I got him. He'll be a good boy.
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when he makes his personal appearance. My God, what if his appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning is get ready, get ready.